So let's talk growth and everything else with Susannah Streeter, who's a senior investment and markets analyst at Hargreaves Lansdown. Good to see you again, Susannah. Let's start with Eurozone inflation. Considering the inflation, considering all that tension in Ukraine, might the ECB wobble, do you think, from their position of no change?
Well, actually, I think, if anything, the situation in Ukraine, if it deteriorates, would actually be a pause for thought in terms of lifting rates because of the impact that it could have on the financial markets. But looking at the broader picture and looking at where inflation is, running at 5.1% for the Eurozone, for the first time, Christine Lagarde, the European Central Bank President, has indicated really that inflation is hanging around for a lot longer than was first expected, and it is of increasing concern for ECB policymakers as well. Still holding off any indication of an immediate rise in interest rates. Certainly for now, ECB not moving on that front, but interestingly, didn't rule it out for this year. And certainly if inflation sticks around with energy prices not looking to go down anytime soon, that will be a course of action. It is increasingly concentrating minds at the ECB, and it is looking more likely that a rate rise will be brought in sooner rather than later.
Concentrating minds, but that vote to keep rates on hold was unanimous. Not the same story across the channel, because back in Britain there's a very different response to high inflation, isn't there?
Certainly. The Bank of England really leading the way in terms of hiking rates, and actually there was much more hawkish, more aggressive stance appearing around the table at the Bank of England. Although this rate hike of 2.5% was widely expected, the dissent around the table, the very fact that policymakers, four of them, wanted to push rates up even higher to 0.75%, did surprise. And that has led expectations that there will be rapid rate rises in the UK to try and keep a lid on inflation, with forecasts that it's going to rise up to 7.25%. And I think that's why certainly policymakers around the table at the Bank of England are moving much more quickly than they are in the Eurozone, because inflation isn't running quite as hot. But, nonetheless, it is still a worry for central banks around the world, particularly in the Eurozone, the Bank of England, and, as we've heard recently, the Federal Reserve, which is also expected to raise rates at the March meeting.
Yeah, analysts expecting rate rises around the globe, aren't they? Let's bring it back to the UK, inflation and this cost of living crisis. Many of the headlines are already screaming that it's Black Thursday, because now the cost of borrowing is up, but also the cost of our energy bills. I mean, I'm scared to open that envelope. They're saying they're going to go up 54%. That's going to be hot to handle.
Yeah, it's a really perfect storm of rising prices right across the board. We've got the increase in energy costs, which actually the Bank of England said it didn't even factor in its assessment. So, highly likely that actually inflation will even go above 7.25%. And of course, we have now mortgage rates going up because of this increase in interest rates. Plus, we still have shop price inflation rising, so price rises right across the board. And the support that the government is offering really will do little to dent the impact on household bills because it's affecting so many people. And I think that's why you've seen retail stocks, for example, sliding today, the likes of Marks & Spencer, JD Sports, because there is a feeling that actually if the cost of living does increase so much, then people simply won't have as much money to spend on delayable items like furniture, like a new outfit. They'll be ring-fencing those budgets to pay for essential expenditure. And that is the worry. And that is why I think there is an extra amount of nervousness among certain sectors like retail and hospitality, the fear that spending will fall as a result of that.
Susannah Streeter, always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much.